All right, I am going live a little bit early today because I completely forgot my daughter gets out of school early. So we are going to jump in and start this live about 25 minutes sooner than typical on Thursdays. For those who don't know me, I am Malika. I am a personal finance coach and the founder of Women Who Money Plan. I provide one on one coaching for women who are feeling stressed about their finances and are basically ready to change their financial story. So I go live each Thursday, and I typically do this in my Facebook group, which is a private group. And I'm trying something new, going live on my public page so that the information is more available to more people to be reached and find out about what I do and ways to help whatever your financial situation is. So I'm always looking at my notes when I'm doing this, by the way. Okay, so today's topic is going to be about relationships and money, and we're talking about ways to reduce the stress that finances can often cause in a relationship. If you are in my Facebook group, you might have caught my live last week where we talked a little bit about dating and money and about the proper ways to bring up money on the first couple of dates when you're just getting to know somebody, and there's some techniques to do that. If you'd like more information on that, you can always join the Facebook group and catch the replay for that. Today's going to talk a little bit more about when you are in a serious relationship with somebody and how to deal with finances within that relationship. So let's get started. All right. If you've ever had a disagreement with a significant other about money, I would love for you to put a one in the chat, just showing that, yes, this is something that has happened, because we all know that at some point in time, there's a disagreement about finances with your significant other. And it can be anything. But here are a few tips that we're going to talk through about what to do in those cases and how to avoid some of those arguments that might happen. So ideally, you want to start your conversations around finances on the first date. When you first start talking to somebody, getting to know them the same way you want to get to know their favorite color and what they do and all these things about them. You want to know a little bit about how they handle their finances. So just make sure you're starting to have an open communication from the beginning. But if that was not the case from your relationship, it does not mean that you are doomed to argue about finances for the rest of your life. Okay. So here's some info that you want to share with each other about finances when you are in a relationship. You want to talk about things such as how much each other makes, especially if you are looking to move in with somebody, combine finances with someone, marry someone. These are conversations you want to have. So you want to have a good concept of how much money each other brings in. You want to be open about what you're bringing in, and you want to be open to hear what somebody else is bringing into the relationship, how much money they're making. You want to know about any opportunities for bonuses that they might have, or if there's any opportunities for them to get promotions and things like that. Talk about what's going on financially. You want to talk about how much debt someone has. If they have a lot of student loan debt or credit card debt, or how much they owe in their car, just getting an idea of where someone stands financially is going to be really helpful. If you are looking to move in with someone, combine finances, marry someone, you also want to know their credit score. You want to know what range we're looking at. If you are planning to get an apartment with somebody, your credit scores are going to be checked. You don't want to find out when you get denied from a property manager that, oh, well, I forgot to tell you that my credit score is really low. That's something you guys should know about each other in advance and have these conversations when you're first looking to get an apartment together or buy a house together and things like that. So have these conversations up front, and that way we're not surprised when things show up later. You also want to talk about each other's spending habits. There might be someone in a relationship that is more of a spender, some relationship that is more of a saver, and it's okay to have different spending habits, but you want to be open about what each other's spending habits are. So having those conversations, play little games of asking each other questions. If you had $100, where would you want to put that money towards? If you had $1,000, what would you want to do with that money? If you had the opportunity to buy a name brand purse or name brand shoes, is that something that you would be interested in? So getting to know each other financially is really, really key, and being open and honest with yourself and with the other person. Sometimes we try to hide to ourselves even the fact that we're a spender, or the fact that we might spend on more expensive things. Be really honest with yourself and be honest with your partner. You want to have conversations such as or how are you going to divide up the bills? That could be something as you doing it 50-50, or maybe one person is paying the mortgage and the other person is paying utilities. However you want to do it, it just has to be a conversation. It should not be something that you feel like the other person just knows your expectation, right? Sometimes people decide to divide up bills based on income, and maybe someone that makes a little bit more might pay a higher percentage towards the bills. And it's not just the fixed bills such as utilities, groceries, and housing. It might be bills or expenses such as when you're going out to eat. How are you guys covering those different things? Have these conversations so that nobody is feeling upset and bothered or taken advantage of in any kind of way because you guys never talked about how you're going to address it. When you're going out on dates and when you're having your date nights and things like that, is it expected that one person is always paying for it, or are you switching things off? Or do you have a joint account that you use and you each put money into this account that's used towards paying for these occasions? Have these conversations. Another thing to talk about is vacations. If you are planning a trip with your significant other, have a conversation when you're talking about where you want to go about how it's being paid for. A lot of times people aren't having these conversations, and then someone ends up mad because they had this expectation in their mind, but they never expressed it to their partner, and their partner never had a chance to express what they were thinking on how things were going to be covered. When you are having kids in a relationship, that's another chance to talk about finances, talking about activities that the kids are going to be in. How are you guys going to pay for that? Do you have a max amount on what you're going to be able to pay when it comes to kids' activities? What about schooling for the kids? Do you expect private school? How would you pay for that? So these are all opportunities to talk about finances in the relationship in a way where it doesn't have to be a negative situation. It's not waiting until something blows up and there's a big issue. Well, now we have to talk about it. It's talking about these things in advance because we know they're going to be coming up. It's being intentional and planning out these conversations early on, because we know that situations will arise, right? You want to make sure that you have a clear understanding of your own finances and your own views around money, and then also being open and willing to hear somebody else's views around money. You want to figure out what areas are you on the same page when it comes to finances. There might be some things that you very much differ about when it comes to money, but there's probably some spaces where you kind of reach these mutual agreements, and you want to talk about those well, like, oh yeah, we definitely agree when it comes to how we're going to pay for our kids' school or what we're going to do when we retire. We agree on those things. And then the areas that we're separate or that we don't agree on, we can talk about those as well and work through those things. Definitely, if you are moving in with somebody or marrying someone and taking that relationship to the next level, you want to have conversations about the expectations in terms of accounts and combining accounts. A lot of people have very different views on how this should happen relationship, and there is no one way that this is supposed to be in a relationship, but having that conversation with your significant other is the most important part. Some people choose to combine all of their finances when they get together. Some people choose to have one joint account for the expenses that they feel are more joint expenses and then still keep their things separate for their own personal spending. Some people decide to do where your debt is your debt and I'm not going to help you pay that off because I feel like I came in with my own thing and you came in with your thing. You want to keep it that way. Some people choose to say, nope, once we come together, each other's debt, we're all combined. This is our debt now and we're in it. We're going to figure this out together. So there's not a right or wrong way to do it, but have that conversation ahead of time, because if you don't, it's going to cause arguments and cause people to feel resentful towards somebody else because they were thinking it's going to be one way and the other person was thinking it's going to be a different way. So again, that's an important conversation to have, is how are you going to combine finances? Will you combine finances? What will that look like? What does that mean to you? Okay. Another important aspect of money in relationships is setting financial goals together. A lot of times you in your mind might have some goals that you want to reach, or maybe you haven't really even thought about financial goals and that's new to you. But sit with your partner and talk about goals together. Do you have a certain savings amount that you want to get to? Do you want to have a certain retirement plan that you want to have and what you want your retirement to look like? Talk about those things. Have those conversations. What goals do you have for your finances? What goals does your partner have for their finances? And what are some of the combined goals? They might be different, and that is okay. If you don't have the same exact goals, that's not a big deal. The bigger issue is that you are talking about them, that you're aware of each other's goals, that you understand what each other is working towards and helping each other to achieve what it is that they want to achieve, right? We're rooting on for each other here. Another thing I will say is don't be afraid to seek help. If you are struggling in your relationship when it comes to finances, there are people out there that can help and support you. There's resources. There are counselors who work specifically with couples. I focus more on women, but there are definitely clients or customers. There are definitely coaches who work specifically with couples and money, and that's available to you. I also do have clients who are women who are married or in serious relationships, but they stick with their finances separately. So then it makes more sense for them to work with a coach because they are doing their finances separately than their significant other. But seeking help is never a problem. It's always a better thing to do instead of just staying in a situation where you're frustrated and you're mad at the other person because they're not understanding how you think about money. I'll also just say it's very important to be cognizant of the signs of financial abuse because this is something that seriously does happen in relationships. It's more common than you think. It can happen to men, it can happen to women. It's not just something that only happens to women. So I'm saying that it's important for women to be aware of if they are having the signs where they're doing something that might be considered financial abuse to their significant other, and vice versa. It's important for women to be aware of if that is a case of maybe they might be being a victim of financial abuse. Financial abuse is really a time when someone is controlling someone else's ability to acquire, use, and maintain their financial resources. Both men and women, like I said, are capable of doing this. So it's just something you always want to be aware of and making sure that things are on the up and up and there's nothing that's going on that could be really detrimental. So I hope this was helpful. I know I covered a lot and I know I was kind of speeding through because, like I said, I had to start earlier than typically planned because it's a half day of school this week. So I have to get my daughter off the bus sooner than I normally do. But I hope this is helpful. Women, if you are joining today, make sure you join the private Facebook group so you can get more information, follow up on this conversation. Men who are watching today, make sure you tell all the ladies that you know about Women Who Money Plan. It's just a great opportunity to connect with other women who are hoping to improve their finances and just feel more empowered about how they're handling their money. So thank you for joining today. This is different for me to do my live here. I'm using something called StreamYard today. So I'm trying to stream it a little bit differently than I typically have within my Facebook group. But thank you for joining. Make sure to follow the Facebook page. Stay tuned for other lives each Thursday. And I will talk to you all soon and have a great rest of your week. Bye.